Arnold Brooks was 71, a widower with careful knees and a steady voice, living alone in a small upstairs apartment in Inglewood, California, where his balcony held a short row of basil and collard greens in a plastic bin, and one folding chair that faced the sunset. On most mornings, he brewed one mug of coffee, flipped open his paper calendar, and penciled in small jobs he did as a bookkeeper for the church and the neighborhood auto shop, work that kept his mind sharp and his days his own. He had driven city buses for 33 years and still moved through time like a timetable. Laundry on Tuesday, groceries on Friday, choir rehearsal on Thursday, the same black cap on the same hook by the door, habits that made him feel safe since Eileen died 5 winters ago. His son Marcus was 39 and lived out in Fontana with his wife Tasha and their 2 children, Jaden 10 and Ari 7. And over the last 3 years, every quick favor had turned into an unpaid shift. Saturday afternoons that became overnights, school breaks that bled into whole weeks, late Sunday pickups that left Arnold fighting sleep on the couch while cartoons hummed in the dark. He loved the grandchildren, loved Ari's cat drawings and Jaden's endless questions about engines, but he did not love being treated like a service that opened on demand. In October, he did something quiet for himself. He put down a deposit on the church seniors' winter trip up the coast, Amtrak from Los Angeles to Monterey, a week of ocean windows, chowder and paper cups, and card games in the hotel lobby, and he circled December 25th through January 1 on his calendar with a thick blue pen so there could be no confusion. He told Marcus at a Sunday barbecue, told Tasha after choir, told anyone who asked about his holidays that he would be traveling with the church, and each time they nodded without hearing, like people nodding through a weather report they think will not reach their street. He bought a small rolling bag, a new pair of wool socks, and a phone charger that plugged into the train seat. He laid everything out on the bed and practiced one sentence in the mirror, "I will not be available to babysit," until it sounded like truth in his own mouth. As Christmas week began, strange little signs made the air feel tight. Marcus texted, "We should talk about the kids' schedule," without a question mark. Tasha called during the 4th quarter of the Rams game and asked about their favorite cereals like the decision was already made. A cousin sent a group photo from last year's living room chaos with the caption, "Our annual tradition." And Arnold felt the old tug that came before every boundary he had ever failed to keep. On the morning of Christmas Eve, he ironed his white shirt for church, wrapped a puzzle for Jaden and a sketch pad for Ari, and slid his printed train ticket into his wallet behind his driver's license like a promise. He checked the balcony plants, locked the window, and stood in the doorway a moment longer than usual, hand on the knob, sensing that something loud was coming and he would need to be steady when it arrived. The plan was simple and in order. Candlelight service at 6, Marcus's house after for dinner, home by 10, sleep, Union Station by 7:10, train north by 8:15. He rehearsed the steps as he drove his silver Camry east on the 105, traffic thin, sky clear, the city quiet in that way Los Angeles sometimes is before a storm you can't see on the weather map. At the curb outside Marcus's place, he turned off the engine, felt his phone buzz in the cup holder, and did not look because he already knew what message waited there. Not a question, an instruction dressed like family. He picked up his gifts, squared his shoulders, and walked to the door with his timetable beating in his chest, ready to keep time when someone tried to take it.
Arnold rang the bell once, and the door swung open on music, heat, and the smell of honeyed ham. Jaden barreled into him with a shout of, "Grandpa!" while Ari tugged his sleeve to show off glitter nails. And in that swirl, Arnold kept his gifts tucked under one arm and his calm under the other as Tasha called from the kitchen, "Come in, Daddy Brooks, hang your coat anywhere," like it was already decided he'd be staying longer than dinner. He set the puzzle and sketch pad on the console table, noticed 2 hardshell suitcases by the stairs wearing fresh airline tags and a printed itinerary half slid under a candle. Cabo San Lucas, 9:05 a.m., 4 names. And the sight put a small cold knot under his ribs. The TV tossed football noise over the voices. Marcus was at the island carving ham, grinning big, and he didn't look up when he said, "Okay, logistics. We'll drop them by yours at 7, beat the airport line, back in a week with gifts. You know the drill." The words moving fast like a train that wouldn't stop. Arnold pulled out a chair, set his cap on his knee, and waited for a pause that did not come. Plates were passed, grace was said, and they ate while the kids chattered about a school holiday concert. Arnold listened, nodded, tasted the ham, and let the clock in his head count down until he had to speak. When Marcus finally looked at him and said, "You good with their bedtime?" Jaden likes that space documentary. Ari needs the nightlight. Arnold set his fork down, smoothed the napkin once, and said in a steady voice, "No." The word was plain, like a door closing. Conversations fell out of the air. Tasha put her glass down carefully. "No, what?" "No, I will not be babysitting this week," he said, feeling his pulse but keeping his tone soft. "I have plans. I told you about my trip in October. I leave in the morning." Marcus's grin melted. He wiped his hands on a towel as if the problem was grease. "Dad, come on, you're retired. It's just movies and mac and cheese. They love being with you." "I love them," Arnold said, tapping 2 fingers on the table to keep his rhythm. "And I am not available." Tasha's eyes sharpened. "We already paid. Flights, hotel, the whole thing. You can't do this to us on Christmas." "You did it to yourselves when you didn't ask," Arnold answered. Jaden looked between faces, sensing weather. Ari pulled her sleeve to her mouth. Marcus's voice got hard. "We're family. Families help." Arnold met his son's stare. "Help is requested, not assigned." The silence went tight as drum skin. The TV's crowd war filled the gap. Tasha stood, scooped plates with quick clinks, then turned back. "Then at least let us drop them early and figure out the rest later." "Do not come by," Arnold said. "I won't be here to open the door." That was when Marcus stepped closer, the old command in his shoulders from high school football days. "You're being dramatic. It's 1 week. We need this break." Arnold held his ground, hearing Eileen's voice in memory, telling him to keep his back tall. "For 33 years, I kept time for strangers. Tonight, I am keeping time for myself." He pushed his chair back, hugged the children, "I love you, I'll see you soon," and looked at Tasha and Marcus once more. "Ask next time. You might hear yes." He put on his coat, took his cap, and walked to the door as Tasha's breath hitched and Marcus muttered something he swallowed. Outside, the air was cool and clean, and as Arnold reached the Camry, he saw his phone buzzing in the cup holder, the first of many calls he would not answer. And he thought, not unkindly, but like a fact, that Dawn would test whether they heard him or only the echo of their own plans. At first light on Christmas morning, Arnold brewed 1 cup of coffee, folded his church blazer back into the closet, and laid his train ticket on the kitchen counter like a compass he could trust. Then he pulled a sheet of printer paper and, in slow block letters that no one could pretend to misunderstand, wrote, "I am not available to babysit this week. I am traveling December 25th to January 1. Do not leave the children here. Do not knock. Respect my boundary. Arnold." He taped it at eye level on the outside of his apartment door, pressed each corner flat, and stood a moment listening to the hallway's quiet hum as if the building itself were holding its breath. He slipped his wallet and a small New Testament into his jacket, set his phone to silent, and rolled his bag down the stairs where Mr. Rios, the building manager, was taping a garland back in place. "Feliz Navidad, Mr. Brooks," Rios said, eyeing the suitcase. "Big day?" "A good day," Arnold answered, and added in a low voice, "If my son comes asking, I'm not here." Rios nodded with the tired understanding of a man who had watched many families test the edges of the same fence. The 7:10 bus took Arnold to Union Station through a city still half asleep, storefronts shuttered, the sky pale and empty. He watched a jogger cross an intersection with steam coming off his breath and felt the small lift of being a traveler again, an old feeling he had not worn since Eileen was alive. Inside the station, the grand ceiling made footfalls sound like soft drums. Announcements rolled like tide. He bought a turkey sandwich, found the Coast Starlight platform, and texted 1 sentence to his own number, a habit he had when he wanted to remember something. "You kept your word to yourself." His phone shivered on the bench with incoming calls. Marcus, then Tasha, then unknown. He did not answer. He slid the phone to airplane mode and let the hush settle. When the train arrived, steel and light, he climbed aboard with the church seniors and found a window seat that framed the morning like a photograph. Miss Ruby tapped his shoulder and said, "We savin' you for spades tonight." And Deacon Harris handed him a peppermint with a grin. The train moved, first through warehouses with spray paint vines, then along a sudden ribbon of oceans so blue it looked unreal.
Arnold ate half his sandwich and watched surfers balance like question marks on small winter waves. Somewhere near Oxnard, he flicked the phone on for a minute, long enough for a handful of voicemails to march in. He listened to the first, Tasha's breath tight. "We're at your door. The kids have their bags. What is this note?" In the background, a child's voice sounded out the word boundary. Then a scuffle. Then another adult voice, Marcus, low and angry. "Dad, open up. This isn't funny." The second message was shorter, sharper. "Answer the phone now." The third held a brittle calm that felt worse than shouting. "Well, let's go," Tasha said to someone else. And the call ended with the squeal of suitcase wheels rolling away. Arnold put the phone back on airplane mode and set it face down. The mystery wasn't what they would do. They would rage, they would manage, they would tell a story where he was the villain and their plans were holy. The mystery was how long it would take for the story to change if it ever did. He let the rhythm of the rails work on his nerves like a hymn. In Santa Barbara, they stretched their legs. He bought a postcard with a pier on it, and after a long minute at the rack, decided not to write it yet. In the lounge car, he watched cloud shadows chase themselves over low green hills and remembered the exact weight of a bus brake under his foot in rain, the way holding a line felt like keeping a promise. By the time the train curved north toward the cold, bright water again, he had made a small private vow. No more explanations to people determined not to hear. He would keep his calendar the way he kept his breath. Steady. Chosen. The coastline widened outside the glass, and Arnold, 71, and sure for once, leaned back and let the day carry him where he had decided to go.
Fog hugged Monterey when the train rolled in, and Arnold stepped onto the platform with his small rolling bag, the church seniors around him like a friendly fence. The hotel was 3 blocks from the water, a clean place with a lobby fireplace, bowls of peppermints, and a view of the harbor, where masts clicked like pencils in a cup. His room smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and salt. He unpacked slowly, set his ticket stub under the glass on the desk like a marker, and put his phone on the dresser face down. The first day he walked the wharf in a knit cap, bought clam chowder in a paper cup, and watched otters turn in the gray water as if they were keys unlocking something. At the aquarium, he let the jellyfish tank hold him for 10 full minutes. The soft pulsing bodies moved like slow clocks that kept different time. He bought a sea otter keychain for Jaden and a tiny sketch pencil set for Ari, then stopped himself from sending a picture. Each evening he sat in the hotel lobby with Ms. Ruby and Deacon Harris, played spades, hummed through carols, and told small stories about bus routes and late shifts, careful to keep the names light. He slept through the night for the first time in months. On the third morning, he checked his phone. The missed calls stacked like bricks. The voicemails ran from pleading to sharp. "We're at your door. Answer now. You ruined our Christmas. The kids are crying. Be ashamed." One text read, "Well, let's go," with a picture of 2 suitcases by his apartment door, like proof. He powered the phone off and set it back down. The mystery for Arnold was not where his family was. They were moving through anger the way a storm moves along the coast. It was whether they could yearn the difference between help and ownership. He decided not to solve that for them. He ate breakfast with the group, walked the shore, and let the week pass like steady breathing. On New Year's morning, the return train hummed south, the ocean on his right now, and he looked at the gifts in his bag and thought about timing. Not yet, maybe later, maybe after respect had a shape. Union Station was bright and busy. The city felt new-washed by cool winter air. At his building, Mr. Rios met him in the lobby with a slow shake of the head. "They came 3 times, Rios said. I told them you were out. I told them we don't take children like packages." Arnold thanked him and took the elevator up. Tape residue framed a clean square on his door where the note had been peeled away. Inside, he set water to boil and stood at the window while late sun touched the palms. The quiet in his chest felt earned. 2 days later, the elevator doors slid open again, and there they were. Marcus and Tasha in matching travel hoodies, the children between them, His note crumpled in Tasha's hand like a ticket that would not scan. The kids moved first. "Grandpa." But Tasha touched their shoulders and stopped them. Marcus spoke in a clipped voice that tried to hide the tremble under it. "How could you do this? We lost money, we missed flights, the whole week was a mess." Arnold held the doorframe with one hand and kept his voice even. "How could you plan a week and spend money without asking me first?" Tasha's eyes were red. "They cried at your door." "I brought them to a door I said would be closed," he answered. The hallway went quiet except for the building's low hum. Jaden looked at the carpet. Ari traced the edge of her sleeve. Marcus took a step in. Arnold did not move. "We're family," Marcus said. "Families help." "Yes, help is asked, not assigned. I am not a spare key." Tasha softened then, her voice lower. "Can we come in and talk?" "No, not today. If you want to talk, call first, use a calm voice, and ask for a time. If you can't do that, leave us be." Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it. The elevator chimed. Arnold nodded once at the children. "I love you. I'll see you when the grown-ups learn how to ask." The doors slid shut on their faces, and he went back inside, poured his tea, and set the two small gifts on his desk like promises waiting for the right knock.
January moved quietly after the Holloway scene, and Arnold kept his days simple on purpose. Morning walks up the small hill behind his building to ease his knees, a pot of beans on Sundays, bookkeeping in the afternoons for the auto shop, and two choir friends who paid on time and said thank you. He raised his rate $5 an hour, and they did not blink, which told him he should have done it sooner. He slept better because his phone stayed on silent except for alarms. A few relatives called with soft scolding dressed up as care. "You know they were stressed, Uncle. You know the kids love you." And he ended those calls fast, thanking them and saying he would not discuss it. One afternoon, a courier arrived with an expensive basket and two best grandpa sweaters, a shiny apology that felt like pressure. Arnold wrote a short note, "Gifts are not apologies," and sent the whole thing back to Marcus's porch. The mystery in his head was not what would happen next. People try gifts and guilt before truth. It was whether his son could actually change the way he asked for help. On his birthday in March, the choir sang too loud on purpose. Miss Ruby brought lemon cake, and Arnold laughed until his shoulders relaxed. That night, home in the quiet, he found an email from Marcus waiting in his inbox. It was longer than any message his son had sent in years. Marcus wrote about work pressure, about fearing layoffs, about booking the Christmas trip because everyone at the office was posting beach photos, about telling himself it would be fine because Dad always says yes. He wrote, "We treated you like a safety net we didn't have to ask or thank. That was wrong." And then he said something that made Arnold stop and read the line twice. "I told the kids you were mad. I didn't tell them you were tired." Marcus ended with, "I'm sorry. Not the kind that asks you to fix it today. The real kind. If you ever want to talk, I will listen and I won't argue." Arnold printed the email, slid a magnet over it on the fridge, and sat at the small table looking at the words. He did not reply right away. He washed his cup, watered the basil and collards on the balcony, and thought about all the times he had caved because of feeling hurt for a minute. He promised himself he would choose what happened next, not the noise. The next morning he answered with a short note. "I'm not ready. I need more time. If we talk, it will be on a day I choose, at a place I choose, after you show you understand my boundary. Please do not call or come by without an invitation." He sent it and felt the tightness in his chest ease just a little. Weeks went by. He joined Domino's on Wednesdays at the rec center and volunteered at the food pantry on Slauson, showing teenagers how to stack cans label out so shoppers could find what they needed fast. He kept the otter keychain and sketch pencils in a drawer, not as a weapon, not as a prize, but as a promise waiting for a right time. Sometimes he stood at the window at dusk and wondered if the apology would hold when pressure rose again. He did not try to solve it. He let the question sit, the way a bus driver lets a red light sit, still, firm, not personal. Late one evening, a final test arrived, a message from an unknown number with a photo of his door and the words, "We're downstairs now." He did not answer. He turned off the lamp, locked the door, and went to bed with his calendar clear for the morning he would choose.
Spring turned to summer, and Arnold kept moving forward one small decision at a time. The morning after that late text, he wrote his rules on a single sheet of paper. Ask, don't assign. 2 weeks notice. Start and end times written down. No surprise drop-offs. No overnights for now. I can say no. And taped it inside the hall closet where only he would see it. Then he rented a P.O. box on Florence so the children could send drawings without anyone showing up at his door unannounced. And he read those rules out loud once a week like a promise to himself. July brought heat and long dusks on the balcony. He watered the basil and collards and let the phone stay quiet. In early August, an email arrived from Tasha that was short and careful. They had started counseling. They were learning to plan without assuming help. They wanted to mail the kids aquarium drawings if he was open to receiving them. No reply needed if the answer was no. He waited 3 days, read the note again in the morning light, then sent the P.O. box number with a simple, "Thank you for asking." A week later, he opened a fat envelope at his kitchen table, 2 wobbly sea otters, 1 bright jellyfish, and a note in Jaden's round hand. "I learned to make eggs by myself so you can rest." And another in Ari's tall letters, "I drew you a star cat." Arnold pressed his palm flat on the paper and felt something in his chest unclench. In September, after a funeral at church, he crossed the parking lot and met Marcus coming the other way. There were no raised voices, just 2 men under a hard blue sky. Marcus said, "I'm studying how to ask. I was wrong." And he held Arnold's eyes instead of looking past him. Arnold nodded once. "Good, keep studying." They did not hug. They let the moment be small and honest. In October, Arnold chose the first test, a visit at Limerick Park on a Saturday. 1 hour, both parents present, no babysitting, just time. He set it by email, clear and simple. And the reply came back just as simple, "We'll be there. Thank you." They arrived 5 minutes early and waited by the coffee stand without waving him over like a summons. The children ran but stopped at arm's length until he opened his hands. Ari's hair smelled like apples. Jaden explained a model rocket he had built out of paper towel tubes, careful not to talk over anyone. Tasha said, "We are sorry," without a but. Marcus said, "We will ask every time and we will accept no." Arnold listened, finished his coffee, and then reached into a small canvas bag. He gave Jaden the sea otter keychain and Ari the sketch pencils he had saved since winter, told them he had bought them in Monterey, told them he was glad to give them now instead of then. When the hour ended, Marcus checked his watch and said, "Time." And they stood, and no one tried to stretch it. They scheduled another hour 2 weeks later at the rec center domino tables. In November, after 3 clean visits, Arnold invited them to his apartment for exactly 90 minutes. He sent the rules by email: arrive at 2, leave at 3:30, bring your own snacks, clean the cups, no lying on Grandpa's bed, no going through closets, and if something spills, we all wipe it together. They showed up at 2, rang once, entered soft, and at 3:28 Tasha said 2 minutes, and they gathered their things without anyone pleading for 5 more. Arnold felt the mystery loosen a notch. Respect had a shape now, and it knocked before entering. On Christmas Eve, 1 year after the first no, Arnold sang with the choir in a black suit and a red tie Eileen had once picked out. The sanctuary lights were warm, and the air smelled like pine. After service, his phone buzzed. A photo waited. The kids in pajamas holding a sign, "Merry Christmas, Grandpa. We hope you are resting." And below it a line from Marcus, "We'd love to bring pie by next Saturday, 2 to 3 p.m. if that works. If not, we'll choose another time." Arnold smiled, typed, "Next Saturday works. Thank you for asking," and put the phone away. He walked home under a clear California sky, unlocked his door, and stood a minute at the balcony with the city quiet and the collards dark against the rail. He had kept time the way he meant to keep it, and when the knock came again,
It sounded like what it should have been all along, an invitation, not a demand.